Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Trade Station Masterclass. My name is Jesus Nava. I'm the Director of Client Training and Education here at Trade Station Securities, and it's always a pleasure to talk about Trade Station. First of all, I want to apologize for the cancellations we had last week. My voice was not cooperating with me, and we had to cancel a few classes. So sorry about that. My voice is still not up to 100%, but we're going to try to do this class. I enjoy, presenting for Trade Station clients a lot, and hopefully I can get through the class and show you a few things that I find very interesting here at the Trade Station. Today, we are going to touch on Easylanguage. Easylanguage is a proprietary programming language that Trade Station uses for all indicators and strategies. And if you're new to Trade Station, you're going to realize that knowing a little bit of Easylanguage is going to open up a lot of doors and a lot of possibilities for you, especially in the area of alerts. Most indicators and strategies have built-in alert criteria that was created at a moment when the indicator was implemented into the Trade Station software. Things change. You may want to adapt to current market conditions. And this, of course, is going to start you thinking about modifying the alert or adding to the alert criteria to get notified of other things. So that's the whole concept of this class. Take what is already part of the Trade Station platform, see how we can modify it, and try to mold the Trade Station platform to do what we want it to do, okay? So yes, today is leveraging Easylanguage, programming simple alerts. Let's go through some of the disclosures. Just keep in mind that every symbol and idea that I talk about is for educational purposes only. These are not recommendations of Trade Station. Also, that active trading is not suitable for everyone, and that past historical performance is no guarantee of future results. For additional disclosure information, visit the link right there on the PowerPoint slide, www.tradestation.com/important-information. All right, guys, let's go ahead and switch over to my Trade Station platform and talk a little bit about alerts and how they're created and managed within the Trade Station platform. For that, let me just open up a chart analysis window. All right, here we go. As I said at the beginning of the presentation, alerts or alert criteria, to be more specific, is something that is pre-programmed on most Trade Station studies. Let me just start with an example. I'm going to add the RSI, Relative Strength Index. Right here is an indicator that is something that you probably use on a daily basis. I'm not sure if you're a fan of the RSI, but the RSI is designed to identify overbought and oversold securities and, take advantage of those situations. Now, the RSI has a very specific set of criteria that it looks for in order to generate the alert. Now, what is it? If I come over here to the settings of this indicator, I'm just going to double click on the RSI just to access its settings. I can go to the alerts tab, but here in the alerts tab, there's no information as to what is it that the RSI is alerting me on. And it's tricky because a lot of times you want to know, if I turn on this alert, what is it that I'm going to be alerted on? And do I have the ability to modify it is most important. So I can come here and enable alert. Let's talk a little bit about, functionality when it comes to alerting. You can enable the alert. Of course, you can choose how frequently you want to be alerted. For example, alert once is just a type of alert that once it's triggered, it's going to be disabled. Alert once per bar is based on the interval of the chart. So if you look at the chart here in my background, I'm looking at a chart of Apple set to a daily time frame. You can see it right here on the top left corner. So if I do choose alert once per bar, I have the possibility of getting alerted at least once per bar. And then you have the third radio button that says alert continuously, which I would advise you to use it, carefully because alert continuously could make an indicator get into an endless loop of alerting. Why is that? Because once the alert is triggered, the alert could be true on every single tick thereafter. If that is the case, you can just imagine how many alerts you're going to get if you choose alert continuously. Of course, right here, you can configure the alerting. You can choose, how you want to be notified if you want a pop-up message, if you want a particular sound to be played. It's all up to this dialog for you to configure the type of alert. You have a setting here called the global messaging preferences because there are some settings that are kind of global and all the alerts will follow the same settings. That's why they're called global. Now you can configure and change those global messaging preferences so that you're applying these changes to all the alerts that are going to be triggered. But if you want an indicator to have a very specific sound or a very specific behavior when it comes to the notification window, you can use custom settings. So that gives you the ability to do a per indicator type of configuration or do global messaging, which applies to everything that is on the TradeStation platform. Right here, we have a radio button for none, but you can see right in parentheses that it says for use when scanning for alerts in radar screen. So that's the reason why we have this radio button. So when I talk about radar screen, I explain the benefits and why you would want to select none when using radar screen. But for now, we're just going to use on global messaging preferences. So as you can see, there's nothing here about the alerts. There's no criteria. So in order for you to see what the alert criteria is on any indicator, you have to go to the Easylanguage. That's why we have this class so that we can show you where to access the criteria and determine if it's something you want to modify or keep it the way you want. So I'm going to come over here at the very bottom. You can see that from the settings dialog, I have this very convenient edit Easylanguage. This will take me to the development environment and it'll open up the indicator RSI for me immediately. So I like that shortcut. So I'm going to click on edit Easylanguage. Notice that it opens up the development environment and I have a tab open here for the indicator. If you haven't seen Easylanguage before, this is what it looks like. This is what drives the calculation of the RSI. I'm not going to go into a lot of the details about how Easylanguage is built and created. In fact, if you're just getting started with Easylanguage, I have a class or a webinar this afternoon at 2 p.m. Eastern Time that talks about how to create custom studies and how to create custom strategies. In that class, we do some sort of an introduction to Easylanguage so that if you're getting started with Easylanguage, then it's a great class to attend. So today, 2 p.m. in the afternoon, check out the events page on the TradeStation website if you'd like to register for that. Manolo is here with me. Manolo is a TradeStation employee as well. He's my colleague, and he's going to be sharing links with us here. So Manolo, please share the link to the specific event that I'm referring to, the Art of TradeStation, this afternoon at 2 p.m. so that you guys can register if you haven't done so already. So here's the RSI code. I call it code because it is programming language. For many years, TradeStation employees referred to the programming language as Easylanguage. They didn't want to refer to it as a programming language, but it is programming. So I think back in the days, we didn't want to scare people off by letting them know that is programming, but it is. There's different levels of programming. I don't consider myself to be an expert programmer, but at the same time, I do handle Easylanguage very well, and I can do some modifications and create some simple indicators on my side. So here we're going to take a look at alert criteria. When you open up an indicator, study, paint bar, show me, you're going to find alert criteria, usually in this format. Right here on line 32, we have a line that says alert criteria. You're gonna learn that whenever you see these green lines inside of Easy Language, these are more like notes. So in this case, line 32 starts with a French bracket and ends with a French bracket. And anything you type in inside those French brackets is going to be a notation. It's not really Easy Language syntax. It's just like a little label or a notation. If you write your own custom indicators, you can make notes to yourself by adding these French brackets because they're pretty much ignored by the Easy Language calculation. They're more like for readability. But most of the indicators that are part of the software will have a section that is labeled alert criteria, and then you can easily identify what is the syntax for that study. In this case, we have if alert enabled, which is a very interesting reserved word. I call it a reserved word because you're gonna also learn that whenever you see a blue word or a word that turns blue inside of Easy Language, is because Easy Language has a reserved meaning for it. And that's why we call them reserved word. So alert enabled, notice that there's no space in between. Alert enabled is something that Easy Language understands, and it pretty much checks to see if you've already checked the box inside of the settings. We were there just a moment ago when we were looking at the alerts of the RSI. When you check the box, this is what this word checks. And if it finds that you've checked the box, then it'll run the alert calculation. This is done more for efficiency purposes, because what's the point of running a piece of code if you haven't even enabled the alert? You see the point here? So alert enabled allows you to go inside of this section of the code only if you've checked or enabled alert, which is very interesting and something to remember if you want to add that element of efficiency to your code. Most of the time, code or Easy Language code, to be more specific, is very efficient. And when you write something, it's executed very quickly within fractions of seconds. So whenever I say makes your code more efficient, I guess you can see a big difference if your code is very intensive in its calculations. But for simple code like this, it's probably not such a big impact when we talk about efficiency. But it just makes sense that using this word allows the calculation to run only if you've checked the alert. So if that is the case, then it's going to begin to run this code. And notice that it's plain syntax where it says if the RSI value crosses over oversold, then alert. Okay, there's a couple of things going on here. First of all, what triggers the alert in Easy Language is this single word right here, alert. As soon as Easy Language finds that you've used the word alert instead of the code, it'll trigger it. Now, in this case, we've put the word alert in a conditional statement, which means that alert is only going to be triggered if the condition is true. If you were to put the word alert outside of that if then condition, then it would trigger every single time the code is calculated. But since it's enclosed inside an if then, it's only triggered if the condition is true. And that's the nature of alerts. That's why you want to be alerted if a particular condition is true. Now, the condition here may be a little bit different than what you expected. When we were talking about the RSI, let's go back here to the chart. We were looking at this line right here. And of course, we said at the very beginning that the RSI is a study that helps us identify oversold and overbought areas of the chart. Now you can see that a few weeks ago, in this case, Apple was oversold. It was oversold because they had a significant rally in price, and the stock or the security became overbought. Right now, the value of the RSI is at 63. There's some bullish movement in the RSI. You see how the values are going up. I mean, we can draw a trend line, connecting some of these points of the RSI, and we can see that we are kind of an uptrend on the values of the RSI. And this goes along with where the movement of Apple is at the moment. So If Apple becomes overbought at any moment, maybe, I'm just saying maybe because that's just depending on the type of trader you are, maybe you want to be notified if it becomes overbought. But I want you guys to take a look at what the alert criteria says. Let's look at the second line, which is the overbought area. If the RSI value crosses under overbought, overbought. So let's go back here to the RSI because that's interesting. In order for us to cross under the overbought level, which is that top green line, the value of the RSI must be above the green line, not below. If you look at the RSI value right now, it is inside of that RSI channel. I call it a channel because we have two lines. But in order for the RSI value to cross under the overbought level, it has to be, of course, above it. So what we're looking for, or the alert criteria that the RSI is looking for, it's a very specific event. It is not at the moment that it becomes overbought. That's not when the alert is generated. It is generated when it's been overbought already, and then it returns inside the channel because it signals that as a time to short. It sees that as a short signal because it's been overbought for a while. Now it crosses under, so it's lost some of that momentum. Sometimes that signal may be true, sometimes it may be false. For example, a few weeks ago when the RSI was overbought back here for Apple, and then it turned inside, we did have some sideways momentum. So yes, Apple did lose some steam on that rally, but it went sideways for a moment. It did go down a little bit, and then it started picking up again. So sometimes the signals are not as prominent as we would want them to be, but that's the nature of the RSI and the nature of signals in general. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, and it's up to you to determine if the signal can be turned into a trading opportunity. However, you can really see the details of the strategy or the alert criteria by going into the code. Without the code, I would have been sitting here and figuring out, okay, what is it that the alert is being triggered on? Can I change it? Of course you can. If I come over here and I look at this code and I say, well, it'd be great to be notified when it becomes overbought and when it becomes oversold. So yes, I'd like to be notified when it exits the oversold, the overbought, but also when it reaches those levels. I can do one thing. Let's go ahead and save this indicator as a different one. And this is something that I do every time when I'm modifying Easylanguage. It's a good habit for you to save it as a different indicator so that you don't modify the original one. So I'm going to go to the File menu. I'm going to Save As. And I'm going to add my prefix !JN. In the class this afternoon that I have at 2 p.m., I'm going to go into some of the reasons why we use prefix. But the main reason why we use a prefix on custom code is because you can see all the custom code together. We'll go into more detail once we go to that class. I'm going to click OK. It's already in use. So RSI alert. I'm going to click OK. So yes, I modify a lot of indicators. I usually leave the same name, but it seems like I've used it before, so I'm just going to modify the name to be !JN RSI alert. And in this case, we have the alert criteria already there, and I can modify this code a little bit. If you notice this code, there's two situations. When it crosses over, then alert, else if it crosses under, then alert. So we have the two situations. Now I can separate this. This is what's called an if, then, else statement. I can do a separation so that I can keep the alerts a little bit more distinct, and I can manage them a little bit better. For example, if I remove the else and just leave the if then statement, then I'm going to add a semicolon over here to separate them. The semicolon is like letting Easylanguage know that you've reached the end of the statement. Now, in the way that it was written before, we had an else as part of the statement, which connected the two. And that's the reason why we did not need that semicolon when we were looking at it before. But now that we've removed the word else, we need the semicolon so that it doesn't mix the statements together. So I can leave these alerts together and I can add more. So I'm going to say if, and I can use the same syntax that we've been using, that we're using before. So if RSI value crosses over bot, then notice what I'm doing here. I already have the one that crosses under overbought, but I'm adding just the criteria of crosses over overbought so that if any security reaches that extreme of overbought or oversold, I'm also alerted. You can have multiple alerts like this. And remember that these are all conditional alerts depending on which one gets hit first. That's the one that's going to be triggered. Now I'm going to use the word alert here, and I can end with a semicolon. Everything else here that you see inside parentheses, it's optional. And it's optional so that you can have a little bit more information on the alert. Now, let me show you. Let's go ahead and find something that is overbought or oversold we can see. Now, this is one side of the alert. I mean, I can do the other side too. Let's go here. If RSI value crosses under oversold, then alert. So let me show you the difference from one to the other. So I'm going to verify this. All right, so it verifies well. I've added an additional alert criteria. I'm going to go over here to my trade station, and I'm going to enable the alert right here. So let's go to alerts, enable the alert. I'm going to do alert once per bar because I don't want to be bombarded with continuous alerts. And messaging preferences is fine. I'm going to click OK. So this stock right here is not overbought or oversold or returning from overbought or oversold. Let me go and open up a radar screen window so that I can find something that it is overbought and oversold, and we can test our alerts. I'm going to go here, open up radar screen. Let me add a list of symbols. I'm going to add the NASDAQ 100, and I'm going to add the same indicator here, the RSI. By the way, if you guys have any examples that you'd like to see demonstrated here, if you've looked at alerts before and you've seen that you want to do some modifications, feel free to share those ideas here in the chat. You know, we can use those as examples as we go along the content here as well. So I'm going to do just a regular RSI. And I'll put it at the very end, and I'm going to click OK. All right. So if I'm looking at anything that is overbought, right here, we have a few, you know, let's see. Tesla is overbought right now with an RSI value of 73. So if I come over here and I load up Tesla here, it's overbought in a 5-minute time frame because that's the default on radar screen. All right, so let's see. This one right here, the RSI indicator that I have here on my chart is not the one that I modified. If you guys remember, we saved the RSI as a different study. So it's not this one, the one that has the alert on the overbought levels. So I'm going to remove this indicator. I'm going to go to studies, add studies, and I'm going to look for the one that I modified. Since I added the exclamation J and exclamation gets sorted to the top, and I'm going to look for RSI alert. Here it is. And I'm going to go to the settings of this one, enable the alert, and alert once per bar. I'm going to click OK. And as soon as I do that, the problem here is also the following. You know, I thought I was going to get the alert right now, but there's a little catch here on the alert criteria that I'm going to talk through right now. This syntax Crosses over or crosses under, it's a very specific event. I know that Tesla is overbought at the moment, but it's been overbought for a couple bars. It hasn't crossed at this precise moment. The only way that this alert can be triggered is if the crossover happens in real time. So I'm looking at a Tesla chart and the crossover has already happened. So in order for this alert to be triggered, I would have to use a different syntax. If I want to be alerted on anything that is overbought or oversold, not that is reaching that level at the moment, then I have to change the syntax a little bit. So instead of using crossing over or crossing under, I can come here and change this to greater than and less than. So if the RSI value is greater than the overbought, then alert. Now I should get an alert. So everybody understands that? Cross under, cross over, it's a very specific event. And the alert is only triggered if it happens after it's been enabled and it's happened in real time. Let's verify this, or at least on the current bar. Now, if I go back here to my chart, take a look at my alert here. Chart analysis alert. It tells me the symbol that generated the alert and the price that triggered it. And it tells me the indicator name that triggered the alert, just for information. But that's it. I don't have much information other than that. You can see the alert message right here. Now, if I add a message, then the alert becomes a little bit more useful. Let's go over here to my code. And that's the reason why we have those parentheses after the word alert. I can add a parentheses. Every custom message that you add to the alert has to be inside quotations, and Easylanguage will display it exactly as you put it in here. So I'm going to say alert. Now I can add. I can just I can say this symbol. You can bring in the symbol itself by just typing the word symbol. Now let me say this is something that I can do here, and you can tag any other additional text. I'm pretty sure if I type in the word symbol, it'll look at the chart, and I have to do a text to string here in order to change the symbol to a text. Text to, let me search here because I'm going to show you something pretty cool, because sometimes the alert message, maybe it's important for us to have the symbol also as part of, let me see here. Just looking for that reserved word, text. If anybody remembers, please let me know right here in the chat. See here something. I'm just looking at the dictionary and searching for just looking for a reserved word. Maybe. So let's go ahead and try this. Okay. maybe you're right, Steve. Let's go ahead and add the symbol here, and I'm just going to add the message is overbought. Okay. Maybe it is already returning a string, so I don't need to change it into a string. That's absolutely correct. So let's go ahead and add this other code here and change the message here to it's oversold. Let me capitalize this. Let's verify this. I need some parentheses here. Okay, there we go. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So take a look at the alert message here. Let's go here to TradeStation. So Tesla is still overbought. You can see that Tesla, or the word, or the reserved word symbol, brings in the symbol itself, and I can add a custom message. You can see that the symbol is pretty much, there's no space between the symbol and the word is, and that's pretty much because I didn't add it in the text annotation, but I can come here to the code and add another space here. So whatever space you put inside the quotations is also going to be printed. So let me go ahead and verify that one more time. And now you can see how the alert is a little bit more, it's a little cleaner. The symbol Tesla is overbought. And now we've added an additional alert here into the RSI, which did not exist before. So what I want you guys to think about is the possibility of changing everything inside of TradeStation. I mean, if you see a study, if you see something that has a set of criteria that you want to change, feel free to do so. I added a couple comments or a couple elements of alerting to this indicator, but I could have replaced everything with what I would want to be alerted on. You know, I didn't want to modify it much, just to stay true to the original syntax or the original idea of the RSI. But when you come here to the alert criteria, you can add all sorts of things. So I can continue on adding criteria here. For example, a lot of times, you know, if you look at the indicator, the RSI, I can interpret this RSI indicator a little bit differently as well. I can come here to the settings of the indicator, go to the inputs, and instead of monitoring the overbought and the oversold levels, I can make them the same. So I'm going to turn those two levels to 50. What that will do is the two green lines that you see inside of the study, they'll be displayed right at 50, and click OK. So now you can see that the RSI calculations are moving more like an oscillator on top of this 50 line. And we can use this as a way of filtering, you know, bullish and bearish mode. Anything that is above, you know, that 50 line has some buying pressure. You know, maybe as soon as it crosses that 50 line, then we think that there's buying pressure and there may be a push to the upside. You know, for example, you know, here we were very close to, or back here, you know. Okay, let's go here to, this is a 5-minute chart. So the time frame also has an effect on this. But now, if I go here into the code and I say, if RSI value crosses over 0, over 50, because that's where the value is, right? Then alert. And you can say a custom measure. There may be, or we can say bullish momentum on, and then you can add the symbol here. So as soon as it crosses over 50, then you'll get an alert message that say that there's bullish momentum on this particular symbol because it's crossed from an RSI value that was lower than 50 to a value that is over 50. And we can use that as a borderline to, you know, filter symbols that has bullish or bearish momentum. So I can do the other side too here if you want us to. If the RSI value crosses under 0, I mean under 50, then alert. And we can say bearish momentum on, and add the symbol here. And notice that all these alert criteria are enclosed in the if then begin statement. So whichever one gets hit, that's the one that's going to be triggered. Okay, pretty cool, huh? Another item that you can take a look at, is the fact that TradeStation can also use text to speech. Not sure if you were aware of this, but if I open up the settings for the indicator itself and I go to the alerts tab, when I configure the alert, there is a checkbox here or a button that says voice text to speech. Now, this is the text or the voice text to speech is not something that is built into the TradeStation platform. We just piggyback on Microsoft's functionality of text to speech. So whenever there's text on the screen, it just reads it to you. I'm not sure if you've tested this on your computer, but voice means that it's going to read whatever message you supply here inside of those quotations. It's going to read it exactly as you put it in there. I find that very interesting. Give that a try, and I'm sure that you guys will enjoy this. All right. All right. Any questions about this functionality? Adding simple alerts, modifying the alert is something that I do all the time. I always question, what is the alert criteria of a particular study? Because I want to know exactly what I'm getting myself into. What is it? What is the alert trying to tell me? And as I said before, every indicator is different. If you like, for example, Bollinger Bands, Bollinger Bands is kind of similar to the RSI, where you're not being alerted when it reaches the extremes. I mean, you're not being alerted when the bars penetrate the upper band or the lower band. You're being alerted when it returns inside the channel. If I right click on that Bollinger Band, I also have a very quick shortcut to open the code for the Bollinger Band. And this is the Bollinger Band code, but if I scroll to the bottom, I'm sure I'll find, here it is. On line 88, we have alert criteria. And you can see that we're looking for cross over the lower band and cross under the upper band. So similar concept of the RSI. I know that you're overbought, oversold. I know that you've reached an extreme, but that's not what I'm interested in. I'm interested in the fact that after you've reached this extreme, then you're returning inside the channel, and that's what the Bollinger Band is alerting you on. But again, we can modify that alert, okay? Yes, I can paste that code for sure. Let me go ahead and paste this code and put it here. I know many of you have probably said that you can't copy and paste from the chat. I'm not sure if that's a feature that's been enabled or disabled. We're using Zoom as a webinar technology, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but that's the code right there, okay? And that's it, guys. That's my class for today, just adjusting and creating simple alerts on Easylanguage. Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, my webinar this afternoon at 2 p.m. is an introduction to Easylanguage. I know many of you have already studied Easylanguage and you are already on your way of creating custom studies. In fact, many of you may have an extensive library of custom indicators and strategies. So congratulations on that. Because I always say that you need a little bit of Easylanguage knowledge to take your TradeStation platform to the next level. So the class at 2 p.m. is just an introduction on Easylanguage. I hope to see you guys there. And if not, have a wonderful afternoon. And I'll see you guys next class, okay? Goodbye, everyone. Great having you.